This is also my PSA. I'm looking in the camera here. To all the black people, all women, everybody that's being looked down and pushed down upon that, especially those that live in those states below Maryland, come to Wakanda. Move to Maryland, move to Baltimore. This is your personal invitation.
This is Eric Keith, editor-in-chief of the Quintessential Gentleman, and today we are here with Baltimore Mayor, Mr. Brandon Scott. What's going on?
Peace, peace. I'm good. Thank you for having me.
How are you feeling?
I'm good. I'm feeling good.
You feeling like mentally, how are you feeling?
Oh, I'm good. Listen, it's a crazy time, right? But I think that when you look, we black, we know we done been through this kind of craziness before. But also when you are raised the right way, but you take care of yourself physically and mentally, you're able to weather even the craziest of storms, right? And I think that we just have to make sure that we're doing that and taking time for you, making sure that you're treating yourself right, your family, and really unplugging as much as possible, especially for someone like me, from the madness of the day. But all things considering, I'm cool.
That's good. Now, you spoke a little bit about making sure you're raised right. I want to know, how was it growing up in the 80s and 90s in Baltimore?
Oh, in the 80s and 90s and early 2000s in Park Heights, it was, I always said it was like heaven and hell at the same time. Because, look, everyone knows what 80s and 90s and early 2000s looks like basically in every major city, right? But in particular for us in Baltimore, it was a rough time. In fact, that's the reason why I got into public service. The first time I saw someone get shot, I wasn't even 7 years old, and no one really cared that it happened. And I was pestered my parents, my grandparents, aunts, uncles, older cousin, because I was that cousin that was like with different people after, because my parents had to work, right? So my little brothers got to go to daycare. I had to go to somebody's house. But one day my mother just looked at me and basically, you know how black mothers do. They're going to tell you what they need to tell you to shut you up. Yeah. She said, if you wanted to change, you got to change yourself. So I started my journey all from there. But it's different. I always tell people it's different. And I didn't think about this completely till a gentleman who I've known since I was in daycare, Dr. Andre Buntley, who at that time was the principal at Green Spring Middle School in my neighborhood. I didn't go to Green Spring, but he came to talk to me when I was in daycare, right? Taught us this thing, good, better, best, never let it rest, as you're good as you're better and you're better as your best, right? That's ingrained in anybody that grew up in Park Heights head from that time. But I also saw him again at Dr. King Elementary. I went to Malcolm X Primary School and Dr. King Elementary, so people I get it honest, so to speak. But he works for me now. He leads the Mayor's Office of African American Male Engagement. And he said to me a couple years ago, one day we just had a bunch going on. He said, Brandon, I want you to hear me. You're the first mayor to ever have to live through all the shit. And I took a step back because Doc was saying it. And I thought about that. He's right. Either they were white, right? So their reality is not their same reality. Yeah. Even some of the ones who were African American, they were older, right? Or they lived in different neighborhoods, right? Like if you're 15, 16 in Park Heights in the late 90s, early 2000s, your experience is a lot different than someone who's 25, 30, whatever, living in Ashburton or even 40, 50 years old. It's just different experience because we all know that at that time in particular, the whole country saw folks like you and I as public enemy number one. Right. So when you come to it in that, you understand that you have a high level of responsibility. And that's really what it was about for me. And my family, my dad's family escaped rural poverty from the South, right? My grandparents worked until the day they died, both of them, on a pig farm in Halifax County, North Carolina. That's why I don't eat pork. I used to spend some of my summer there feeding pigs. My mom's family did the same, coming from rural Virginia. When you come from that, and you know, for me, I know back as late in the 1700s that part of my family was free in rural North Carolina at that time. you come with a high level of responsibility, not just for yourself, but for your people.
Yeah. Who was the first politician that you remember?
That very clearly it's three people. And I had the opportunity to know them all. The first one that I remember is Congressman Mfume. And then when we were growing up, the only three that we would see would be Congressman Mfume, then Congressman Cummins, and Mayor Smoke. And Mayor Smoke, I knew because he was the mayor, obviously, and that my uncle would always get invited to fundraisers and things like that. But he and I started telling this story recently. I owe my voice to Congressman Mfume because you wouldn't think it now because I talk all the time and publicly. But when I was a young man, I had to have surgery on my throat, tonsils, adenoids, all of these things. And back then, the students that were the smart students, they had this thing called gifted and talented. I had probably the distinction of probably being the first, I don't know if anybody else has done this, being in gifted and talented and special ed at the same time, because I had to learn speech and do speech, all of those things over. And that was a humbling experience. Actually, I think is partly where my desire to help those who are frowned upon and ignored the most comes from, because I saw that, right, that I would be treated one way in school for most of my day, and then I was just in this class with these students who, like, they just locked away and no one saw all the time and saw that their struggles were different, but they were really no different from me. But and my uncle, I don't know if he planned this out or how he did it, but back then we didn't have an NFL team. This was before the Ravens, right? So I'm 10 or so, 9 or 10 years old, and my uncle gets season tickets to the CFL Baltimore Stallions at Old Memorial Stadiums for me and him. Okay. And right next to us is Congressman Mfume. And everyone knew, my parents, everyone will tell you that when I was that young, I always said I wanted to be the mayor. And one day when I had to go to the bathroom, my uncle didn't go with me. It was a congressman. And he took me in this bathroom in this Memorial Stadium, and it's like an old stadium. So it's like water leaking, probably had pee in it, all kind of stuff leaking out there. I'll never forget it. But he looked at me and said, hey, they tell me that you want to be mayor one day. And I said very lightly, yes. He was like, look, I know you went through a lot. I know you had these surgeries and all these things, but you can do whatever you want to do. No one can stop you from being what you want to be but you. You have to push yourself and regain that confidence, because the only thing stopping you from talking and saying and doing the things you want to do is you. That changed my life, because someone that I saw all the time, and at that time he's probably he's at the NAACP, right? He's representing our people around the world. Took the time to do that. So he'll say that everything I said that's great comes from me, is responsible for him. If I get in trouble, it's my fault.
November 2020, you're elected youngest mayor of Baltimore. How did that happen by a landslide?
Oh, let's go a step back. In Baltimore, the general election is the coordination. It's like you already know you got it. You just waiting for everybody to come, and that's how it goes. Yeah. The primary election in Baltimore, because Democrats are just overwhelmed, is the real election for us. And that was a fight, right? We have to think about an election during the height of a pandemic, right? The election got moved multiple times. It was 20 people running in the race. I'm running against, in that race, there were two other mayors that I was running against, right? Mayor Young and former Mayor Dixon. And that was a fight. That was a dog fight. But when you come out of something like that, and people's like, that had to be tough for you. That had to be tough to go through all of those things, and you were risking all of these things, and whether you were going to stay elected. And I'm like, well, I didn't get into this to just stay comfortable. I got into this for the city, and the city was worth fighting for, and literally putting my future on the line for a city that was dealing obviously with COVID-19, but this overwhelming presence of this disease of gun violence that had been there all of my life. So that, after winning that election, the primary is this big, but then it's like, boom, I gotta go back to work like the next day, because we're dealing with the pandemic, dealing with violence, knowing that we have the general election looming, but that for all intents and purposes, we were here. The general election was an interesting time for me. If you go back and look, like there's a movie, The Body Politic, that showcases my first 2 years in office and has that night on camera. You can see where there's supposed to be all this joy that there's not for me. And that's for two reasons. One, obviously I know like it's not really a time to be happy because the world has gone to shit.
Right.
But also, and more importantly for me, that night, my grandmother's in hospice. Like I know she's gonna be gone soon. So my mindset was just a lot different there. Very different feelings on election night then versus now.
Yeah. So I want to make sure I get this right. So Baltimore recently recorded the lowest number of homicides in a month since 2012. The city has seen more than 20% decrease in homicides year over year in 2024. And Baltimore is no longer ranked among the most dangerous cities. How were you able to do it?
Well, it's the lowest month of homicides on record.
Okay.
So they didn't start tracking that until the 1970s. So that month was the lowest ever. And we have had 2 straight years in Baltimore where we've set historic reductions of homicides and violence in Baltimore City. But it's not about how I did it, right? Yes, I'm the mayor, right? I had to lay the vision, right? When everything's going wrong, everybody wants to say, what is the mayor doing? What is the mayor doing? What is the mayor doing? When everything's going.
Like where's, a shopping center?
Yeah. Yeah, why can't the mayor make someone open a private business that they say they're gonna open whenever they want? Yeah. But I think that when things are going right, it's everybody else, right? That's just the nature of the job. But for me, because it's different when you've lost people. It's different when you had to duck bullets. It's different when you had the gun in your face. It's different when you've been sat down in handcuffs multiple times just because you were breathing while black in your neighborhood, right? And imagine being a young person who grew up in a neighborhood that is the center of the sports world for the 3rd Saturday in May for a horse race, and every other day of the year, you weren't treated as human. It's different for me. So I knew, and at that time, I had been in City Hall since 2007, right? I've seen all the things. I knew that we had to have a comprehensive approach. I knew that was gonna be unpopular, but as I said on that first day that I got sworn in, on December 8th, 2020, I was always gonna do the right thing, not the popular thing, because the popular thing most of the time isn't the right thing to do. So we created Baltimore's first ever comprehensive violence prevention plan that talked about doing all of the things, refocusing our police, right? Not going into neighborhoods and saying that everybody in those neighborhoods that have a high amounts of violence are likely to be the victim or perpetrator, by focusing in on the very people. And we did that through our group violence reduction strategy, where we identify those people, right? Through data and stuff that we have, real live information. And we go to those people first through my mayor's office of neighborhood safety engagement and our community partners and say, look, they get a letter from me direct that says, I know who you are, I know what you do. I want you to stay alive. But the only way you can do that is if you change what you do. We'll give you the help, housing, education, mental health, whatever you need, relocation, whatever you need. Take it. But if you don't, then we come in with the hammer. And people have taken us up and people haven't. We've also invested historic amounts of money into community violence intervention through not just our Safe Streets program as a city program where we take people who used to be those killers, right? Who used to be out there, even people that I grew up with in Park Heights who have been like family to me, went to the same schools my whole life. They can go out and intercede in things that even I can't, even though I'm from that same place. Supporting organizations like We Are Us, our hospital-based violence response, our partnerships with the U.S. Attorney, the Attorney General, the State's Attorney. We've been able to go out and sue gun companies like the Ghost Gun Company and eliminate their operations in not just Baltimore and Maryland. We're suing for more data. We're suing gun stores that have been helping flood. We're doing all of the things, and that's the way you have to approach it.
Right. So to go a little bit on a different track, you were not a father when you came into office. I want to know, how has your children impacted you now?
Oh, my whole family impacts me. I went from 0 kids to 50-11 real quick. 0 to 3 to be exact. But when I think about, and I always tell this story, how I even came to know my wife and have my family, things happen at the time that it's supposed to happen at, right? Everyone knows that the most important thing for me as mayor is the young people. It's the young people and everything else is second. But also, if you know Baltimore, you know that when people ask you here where you went to school, no one gives a damn where you went to college. They're talking about high school.
Yep.
And they know that you cut one arm, it's going to bleed blue, the other one's going to bleed gold, right, for Mervo. But those kids in particular have a higher relationship with me. So imagine in September of 22, I am preparing to go to their first high school football game, which my little cousin, who is also my godson, plays on that team, right? And all these kids that I know. And I'm at an event, I'm getting interviewed, and I get a text every time a violence incident happens. It says 3500 Hillary Road. So I already know where it is. So I'm calling all my friends that teach there, et cetera, like, have you found TJ? He's fine. Who is it? They don't tell me. And they end up telling me it's this young man, Jeremiah, who shot in the head and dead. And we had just gotten him back on the right track. Mm-hmm. That was hard enough. Going and be the person that had to hold up all these kids that I know, the principal, the coaches, all these folks who were like family to me, right? Because it's tough anytime I have to do this. The hardest part to do in a job. That's hard enough. But then for his mother to tell me that he told her he was going to look for me before the game so that he can ask me to help him get a job that will allow him to still play football and take care of his kid, broke me. I was broken. It just so happened that I had this event coming up in a few weeks. It's this Charm City Live event. And I'm sitting there and I just see this young lady pointing with her kid, and I just tell him, hold on, just 1 second, right? Just hold on, take it. Because people know I go out of my way to take pictures with kids. So I go over and I'm like, she looks familiar, vaguely familiar, right? And at this time, there's none of that, like her son. So Lindsay, who works with me always at these festivals, he keeps 10 all access passes for me to just walk around, and I just give them to random people. Mm-hmm. That's how I met my wife, through my oldest son, Sarone, because it was him that asked to come in here, and then our friendship grew. And now, through Hannah, Sarone, Charm, and Camden, I have this whole other side of life that keeps me balanced, that allows me to focus on other things, that allows me to take beats that I would never be able to take, but also to have a deeper investment on why I need everything to be going in the right direction. And I think for me, it's just, they mean the whole world to me. That's now the most important thing to me. Everything else comes after them.
But my last question for you is, what do you want for Baltimore after you're gone? What, if you could think about, all right, I've done it, this is what I've done, what would that be?
In short, I want Baltimore to be its best self. But that to me means that we continue to have these reduction of violence that we have, that we tackle things like this historic plan that we have, $3 billion plan to eliminate vacant housing over the next 15 years, that we grow the city, but that we do that without losing our culture, without losing our blackness, with continuing to allow black businesses to move here and thrive, black people, renters to become homeowners, every black child here to be able to have the educational opportunities to allow them to be the best version of themselves. I want that for my children and everyone else's. I want Baltimore to have the renaissance that we're currently having, but to do that and have the renaissance not be taking over and not lose that grit, that charm, and of course that obey that we sprinkle on everything.
Perfect. Well, you are definitely doing it, and it's so interesting because you are inspiring people outside of the city, outside of the state. Even me, has somebody this right now, this conversation means so much to me, being able to have this opportunity, because I've been watching you, and I live in Baltimore. I don't live in Maryland.
Not yet. This is also my PSA. I'm looking in the camera here. To all the black people, all women, everybody that's being looked down and pushed down upon that, especially those that live in those states below Maryland, come to Wakanda, move to Maryland, move to Baltimore. This is your personal invitation.
That's your invitation. Thank you so much. I
Yes, sir.
appreciate it. It's perfect.